Holly, welcome to Waterstones.
Thank you for having me and not kicking me out so far.
Well, let's see how it goes, shall we?
Yeah, no, I have been given, I'm on my second warning.
We have filmed before, but this was, I realise now, 6 years ago.
Yeah.
I followed you around Great Missenden as you took us.
It was weird, yeah, why did you do that? It was weird. You
Well,
did follow me around. And I was like, who's that guy? What's he doing?
Why is he filming me?
Why's he got a camera out?
Yeah.
It was strange.
You took us on a lovely tour of locations for A Good Girl's Guide to Murder. But here we are with that sort of series complete. It's been turned into a TV series.
It has.
And now we have Not Quite Dead Yet, which
My
marks
first
your
adult book.
Adult book.
Now I'm a grown-up.
Yeah. But I wanted to ask really, first of all, whether there is any difference for you in the writing of any of those mediums, so YA, TV, adults, or do you approach them all in a similar way?
I think in terms of YA book and an adult book, no. The character's 27 instead of 18, but like most 27-year-olds haven't developed a huge amount from 18, speaking from experience. She's sort of, I feel like lots of people will relate to Jet in Not Quite Dead Yet, because she's in that sort of interim period where she wants to do something really big with her life, but she's sort of failed to launch and still living at her parents' house. A lot of us can relate who are still living at home at age 26, 27, waiting for their debut book to come out. So I think people, YA readers, will feel welcome in the adult book. It's the same sort of vibe. It's got the me special sauce in it. I've said it now. We're keeping that.
Gonna have to
keep
commit
that
to
in. It's the me special sauce.
Get it trademarked.
Get it trademarked. So the only difference really is the amount of explicit words that I could use, one in particular.
Yeah.
And I have said that is the entire reason I wrote an adult book. And I would not be lying to say that is slightly a little bit true.
Just wanted to drop some swear words in there.
I really did, and it's a really good prominent one. So that's the main difference there. TV writing is a different medium. And I've, dropped myself, I haven't dropped myself, clawed my way in saying I will write this TV show. But I just think I have sort of the screenwriting instinct, because I think a lot of my books, I write them almost like a screenwriter anyway. I kind of make sure I hit the exact plot and storytelling beats. And they're all very visual. So for me, I think it's quite an easy process, because it's almost like I was already a screenwriter, trapped inside the body of a novelist. Poor me. It's fun. It's different in that it's much more collaborative, and there's such things as budgets. And you've got to make your days. So as much as I want a scene to be exactly as I wrote it, you have to compromise and be like, okay, they can't possibly get all those pages filmed in one day. So it's a complicated process at times. But then you have the end product, which is, an entire village creating something that you made up in your head in your bedroom. And it is a bit of a surreal, whoa. Yeah. That is wild.
So less singular control, but the same kind of feeling of achievement at the end of it.
Yes. If I ever feel, I don't tend to feel senses of achievement. I feel mild relief, and then I'm like, okay, what's the next thing? Okay. What have I got to do now? Let's open my email inbox. Close it back down.
Never make that mistake.
No, I will not.
You mentioned Jet there, your lead character. Talking about a thriller, of course, is really tricky because we don't want to spoil anything, but could you tell us a little bit about Jet and, I suppose, the hook of this book, the situation that she finds herself in?
Yes, so if it weren't slightly obvious by the title, Not Quite Dead Yet, this is a story of Jet, who's 27, and on Halloween she's at a fun fair that her family kind of host in her town, and when she goes home, someone murders her, except they didn't quite do a good enough job, and she's still clinging on to life, but the doctors tell her that because of complications, because of a medical issue she already has, and the blows to her head, she will suffer a fatal aneurysm in 7 days, or she could go in for a very, very risky operation, which she's very likely to die in. And they're like, choose one. And Jet is a character who's not been very good at choosing in her life. She's not, she struggles to pick what to have for breakfast most days. But she decides that she is going to not have the operation, and she's going to use her final 7 days to solve her own murder. So, she's got goals. Will she see them through? I don't know. You have to read the book to find out.
I mean, it's a fantastic hook, and it's a great title, as you say, that makes it really clear what you're sort of in line for. But can you tell me a bit about the process of writing? Because if I heard that you wrote this book, actually, the writing itself happened very quickly.
Yeah.
But I presume that before that there came a longer period of planning and research and all the rest of it.
There was, I mean, this book, this was quite a relief for me because my previous book, The Reappearance of Rachel Price, was really hard to write.
Yeah.
It was still fast, but like I suffered for that book. And then Not Quite Dead Yet came around, and I wrote it out of contract. Like no one was asking me to write this book. You know, people were asking me for another YA book, and I was like, no, just hold my beer, watch me do this. And so I was sort of on my own time, but my own time is sort of the most pressurized because I'm a horrible boss. So I researched and plotted and planned for about a couple of months. And, I had to do a lot of research for this book because the whole medical thing, I wanted it to be accurate, as in like a neurosurgeon might read this book and say, okay, this could happen. Obviously, it's very, very, very unlikely to happen, but that's what all stories are. They're the unlikely thing. And then when I actually started writing, it was 6 weeks all in all. And I know this, and if you doubt me, I've got proof. I have a graph on a website that I use where I input my word count for the day.
Yeah.
And yet it was exactly 6 weeks until the end.
Which for anyone who doesn't know anything about writing is
That's
insanely
psychotic.
fast.
Yeah, that is fast. I felt very tired at the end of that. Very, very tired. And then I just handed it to my agent and I was like, here, sell that, please.
And luckily they
He
did.
was furious though, because he wanted me to just write a partial or like not even a partial, just like the synopsis and sell it. And he was like, that's the normal thing to do. And I was like, no. I wanted to be a martyr and I wanted to suffer for my art. And I was like, I want to write the whole thing and then try and sell it. Because I didn't want people just to think I'm resting on my laurels or like using Pip, like resting on her. I wanted them to know that I could stick the landing of this one. So I was very high and mighty about it. And I was like, no, I will finish. And then you'll do it.
You mentioned Jet's dilemma at the very beginning of the book, which is that she can either choose to have this very risky operation or she can not, and I suppose enjoy that last week of life. What would you do if you were in that situation? I want to know if you had that same dilemma.
It is tricky. I mean, to me, it's sort of your main character should have an impossible choice as they're moving from like their first act into their second act. But I feel like in a lot of ways, I mean, you've got a 10% chance of surviving that operation, the doctors sort of guess. Those odds aren't fantastic. So, I mean, I'm probably in that place where I'd be like, oh, I've got 7 days, maybe I can write another book in that time. Think of the legacy. I think I probably would be the same. And like, I've got to do something good in those last 7 days, because to me, it's sort of a choice between most likely die now or die in 7 days. So I think I'd probably choose the same as Jet. But let's hope I don't have to.
No, let's hope that's...
I also feel like, I do procrastinate a lot. So I probably have lots of big plans and then I just play PlayStation.
Yeah.
That final week.
That would be the risk.
Have a great time.
Just scrolling through TikTok.
Oh God, and I just eat so much food.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll eat gluten again. I can't eat gluten now, but maybe I'll just do it if I'm dying anyway.
There's no consequences.
There's no consequences,
yeah.
Exactly. Commit crimes. Wait, let's stop there. Let's stop.
Especially as this is being filmed, let's make sure you've got an alibi.
Yeah.
Okay. You mentioned there a little bit about the thoughts of how you plot character with the idea of a first act and a second act, stuff like that. How do you work on your characters? Because you've clearly done a lot of work with this book to make sure that they all have, I suppose, some journey, some discovery they make about themselves.
Yeah.
And I've heard you speaking a little bit about how you separate plot from story.
I do that.
Yes, tell us more.
Well, for me, the first thing that always comes to me is the hook. So it is plot-based. So literally, Not Quite Dead Yet, the title came to me first, and I was like, that's cool. And I'd sort of always been interested in time-delayed deaths or murders, because there are cases where people have slow brain bleeds or something, and then like 2 weeks later, the person who hit them in a bar or whatever is arrested for murder. And I always thought that was like a really interesting plot to make work. And I think I start with plot, really. I have a great time, just me and my notebook, thinking like, what are like the cool scenes or set pieces I want to see here? Like, what do I want to see them do? And I sort of get that in an order. And then I do the harder work, which is working out, okay, why does any of this matter? Like, for me, I always enjoy books way more when there is an emphasis on like the character driving the story and, you know, why do I care about them? Do they have some kind of fatal flaw that I know they're going to learn by the end? Like, reading plots is fine. Lots of people just do that. But I wouldn't, if I just had the plot and not the story, I think you'd be able to tell. And I do think it's what makes people invest in a character. And it's kind of the reason you'll cry, because you care about them. So then I kind of go through and do the hard work of, okay, what is Jet's misbelief? Like, what does she believe about herself that's wrong? And then by the kind of third act of the book, she'll have learnt her lesson and can go forward. And what the smart thing to do is, I can't always do this, is if all your characters, their arcs all sort of circulate a similar theme. So this time the theme is sort of like the meaning of life. And so Jet and the secondary main character, Billy, his character arc is different to Jet's, but it's sort of in a similar area where it's like, what is the meaning of life? What is it? It gets deep.
It does get deep.
It gets rough. I pitched it to my agent. I was like, it's okay. It's kind of like woman gets bashed on head, solves own murder in 7 days. But then it's also a little bit, it's a wonderful life thrown in there. So yes, Jet learns a lesson that I think we should all apply to our daily lives, but I have not. I've not yet learned the lesson from Not Quite Dead Yet.
Well, yeah, given 7 days to live, you were like, maybe I could squeeze another book out.
Yeah.
Or play
I think
PlayStation.
exactly. That's the exact opposite of the lesson.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you pay attention to the lesson in the book, because I haven't.
Yeah.
But I want your life to be better.
When confronted with death, she thinks, what does it mean to live,
Yes.
effectively? One of the other things that happens as a result of her injury is that Jet starts to lose some of her words. And as I was reading it, I was thinking, for a writer, that must be an absolute nightmare. Have you ever struggled, I suppose, with the process? You wrote this book very quickly, but have you ever had those moments of writer's block, or moments where it's just not coming, and have you found ways of getting over that hump?
I mean, the way that I work is that when I'm actually writing, like the words going on the page, I never get stuck at that point, because I know exactly, I've sort of very psychotically plotted it out on key cards. I couldn't possibly go wrong. I've done it all. There are times when I'm in the plotting and planning stage where, like, you might say I get stuck for a couple of days, but it's more like, oh, I want to know what like the big twist is here, or like what's my midpoint twist. And like, it's fine. I panic at the time. I'm like, oh my God, I can't write the book if I don't think of this. And I do always catastrophize. And I'm like, it's over. My career's over. I need to remind myself that it's always okay. And it's literally always about a day, maybe 2. I'll go on a long dog walk, or I'll be in the shower or something, and I'll be like, I've got it. Where's my phone? Where's the notebook? Quick, write it down before it goes. So like, on occasion, yes, but I feel like I've set myself up so that like I know what sort of thing it needs to be.
Yeah.
So I will always get there, but sometimes, you know, don't ask me on the day that I'm lost, because I'll be like rolling in the corner like this. Oh no! But we get there.
It seems as well that one thing you need as a writer, and that you definitely possess, is a sense of humour. And this is reflected a bit with Jet, because she has this incredible humour throughout this book, and actually says, you know, if you've got to die, you might as well be funny about it.
Might as well crack a joke while you're going out, yeah.
So, but writing humour is tricky. How do you incorporate that, especially into a book which is essentially, you know, a thriller and sort of driven by that?
I feel like I just can't help it, because it's so funny. It just leaks out. I don't know, I feel like for me, my books actually do get quite dark. Like that last book in A Good Girl's Guide to Murder, oh boy, I'm surprised they let me publish it. And for me, I always, in the content I consume, I always appreciate when there is levity and lighter moments, because I think they lull you into a false sense of security. You're like, we're having fun, we're just pals. And then, pow, I punch you in the face with emotion. So I feel like if you want to have a book that goes to deep, dark places or really sad, you've got to bring them up as well. There's got to be levels. And I think it's just because that's how I am. I take the piss out of absolutely everything. I'm never serious. So my characters struggle to be as well.
It's a good way to be.
It's a good way to be.
Jet, of course, has a sort of ticking clock that she's working against. We've had a similar ticking clock during this interview, which is that we're in a room which is not air-conditioned, and
we're
it
in
is
an oven.
30 degrees.
If not more.
So I will draw things to a close by saying thank you, Holly, and we wish
it.
you all the best with Not Quite Dead Yet.
Thank you.